What is going on, everybody out there? Fascinating graveyard. Today, I am at the West Batavia Cemetery here in Batavia, Illinois. We're in the Chicagoland area. I'm guessing we're about maybe an hour or so outside of Chicago. And a gloomy day today, pretty gloomy, and going to escape the rat race, if you will, of the Chicago area. But before I leave, there was something that I wanted to show you guys really quick, a quick story that I wanted to talk about. So this story actually went viral, and I seen it on some news channel on YouTube about 2 weeks ago. So there was I guess you would call it breaking news in this old story that pretty much resonated around here in Batavia. So back in 1978, there was a couple, and they were doing some kind of remodeling work at their home, and well, they found a human skull somewhere, like hidden in the wall section of the house. So immediately they called the Batavia Police Department. They came and they did a search to see if they can find any other remains. They did not. So they have this skull. They have no idea whose skull it is. We don't really know what DNA is. So they take the skull and they bring it to the Batavia Depot Museum. It's this place right here that I visited. Basically, it's a museum. They're kind of showing relics of farm implements and tools and such that people back in the late 1800s would use. So they put the skull there. And then you're going to kind of fast forward about maybe 40 some odd years. So they were doing an inventory checklist of items that they have at this museum when somebody discovered the skull. Now, I guess they didn't have the best of record keeping, because there should have been some kind of notes to tell whoever found it, like, this is what happened, this was where the skull came from. So they don't know what this skull is all about. So they call the police, they come out again, and then after doing a little bit of digging, then they find out, okay, this is the skull that was found in a house in 1978. But now that we got DNA technology, we're going to be able to ascertain possibly the identity of the person whose skull, it belonged to them at one time or another. So after doing some genealogy search, I think they found a person that would have been considered a second grandson of this person. So I'm not exactly sure how long it took them, but about 2 weeks ago, as the recording of this video, they were able to find out that the skull was a woman, or a teenage girl. Her name was Esther Ann Granger. And this is her final resting place, as you can see right here. And we have somebody following us. We have a special guest.
How are you?
Got Kathy Go to the No-No. What's up? She was following me. I see you're following me.
Stalking him.
Yeah, so this is the final resting place of Esther Ann Granger. And so from whatever record keeping that people would take, whatever, that she died during childbirth when she was about 17 years of age. And so they believe, right, that they're like, how did the skull get into behind the wall of somebody's house? I think they're saying that there was possibly, because she was buried in Maryville, Indiana, so they're thinking that, because back in those days, grave robbing was a very popular pastime of some local scumbags in whatever said area of the country. So they're believing that because of these grave robbers robbing her grave, possibly selling it to some medical school, and whoever had this cadaver, after they practically used the entire cadaver up, they only had the bones left, so they hid it in their home, or maybe they hid it in somebody else's home. We don't know. We don't really know the true story. That's pretty much it. So we're going to grab something to eat. I'm kind of hungry, but nonetheless, rest in peace to this woman. After, about 60 some odd years, she finally has her identity. We don't really know what she looks like, but they're guessing that she looks like the composite computer generated image that you see on your screen. I noticed this plaque as I was walking by. This is the final resting place of Alan Karp. It says on here, soldier, explorer, and scientist. Captain, 51st Artillery CAC, 1917 to 1918. Cited for gallantry in action at St. Miel. Distinguished mountaineer, notable first ascents, Mount Logan, Mount Bona, and Mount Fairweather. Research engineer, important contributions to science in the field of electricity. Lost on the Muldrow Glacier, Mount McKinley in Alaska, leading an expedition to make cosmic ray measurements at high altitudes in the far north. Those who seek these great summits will live and have their being on the heights. So Alan was a soldier. He served in World War I. He actually got gassed and almost died over there. His mother is a descendant of Ezra Cornell. He's the guy that Cornell University is named after, and also Ezra Cornell founded Western Union, which I have used at times of my youth when I was short a couple dollars. I was a starving student, a student of the streets. So, and Alan, Mr. Karp, he was basically a mountaineer. He would go around, climbing mountains, and lived a very distinguished life for sure. I believe his last name is pronounced Carpe. There is that, what do they call it? An accent that goes on top of the letter. I'll correct it down below. Try to get everybody's name correctly. Sometimes I run into names and I'm like, do I even want to try to pronounce this? Sometimes I'll use the YouTube channel where they pronounce names. Sometimes, however, they're wrong. So you never know, but hopefully I got his name correct. December 30th, 1903. It's around 1 p.m. and the Iroquois Theater is holding a play called Mr. Bluebeard, starring Eddie Foy. And there is hundreds of people lined up around the corner. They can't wait to get in. It's a matinee, and the play is going to start at around 3 p.m. or so. 1,700 people file into the theater and sit down waiting for the performance. While they're waiting, there is an arc lamp that somehow or another breaks. It catches fire to these curtains that are hanging in the theater. Now, the fire would quickly spread from the curtains to other parts of this building that, when it opened, was described as fireproof. Well, let me tell you, it absolutely was not fireproof at all whatsoever. As the fire is enraging and quickly engulfing the building, panic starts setting in with everybody in the audience. They start getting out of their seats and they're running for the exits. The only problem is some of those exits were not exits at all. It was just a brick wall. Others had fire doors that were locked. And they start panicking. People start getting trampled. Smoke is quickly filling the theater. By the time everything was over and the fire was put out, the smoldering ruins of the Iroquois Theater, 602 people died. And they died because of faulty exits, fire exits that were locked. And people were asphyxiated, they choked on the smoke, they died from the flame. They were stomped, trampled to death. 602 people. Up until September 11th, that was the worst American building disaster in our nation's history for 100 years, until the World Trade Center towers collapsed. This is the Badenfield family grave, and 6 people of the 602 that died in that fire are buried right here. All these names right here. All perished December 30th, 1903. I am the resurrection and the life. Because I live, ye shall live also. Farewell, beloved, here at last I shall rest with thee in Christ shall rise again. And inscribed at the bottom right there says, to the memory of the 6 lived who lost in the Iroquois Theater, Chicago, December 30th, 1903.